Pam and Troy Jacobson were very involved in the church that was affiliated with Alma Heights, but I don't think that they actually lived at the campus like the Anderbergs, like the Grosses, like the Wellings. But so Troy led chapel, and at Alma Heights, we only had chapel on Wednesdays. Pam, they would pull in at all sorts of weird times whenever they needed her, because again, it was nice to have this little population of housewives who have very interesting views, to put it lightly, and then they could bring them into the classroom whenever they needed them. So Troy, my biggest memory of Troy, again, I never necessarily had a problem with this guy. I just felt he was like, there was something so icky about him, like the guy, kind of like how Blake Anderberg never brushed his teeth. I felt like Troy never showered. He was just so nasty, something about that, like, ugh, it's just so greasy. That was my memory of Troy. So he used to get up in front with his little guitar, and he thought he was like a rocker, right? And he had this song called Shine, 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 Shine for Jesus, Shine, 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 Shine for Jesus, Shine, 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 everybody shine all of the time. So it's disgusting how I literally can remember the next verse, but I'm not going to get to that. So I remember my first initial memories of Pam was that sometimes she'd get up there and dance with him in her little stupid way. But when I really got to know Pam was when she'd sub for us and start running her mouth about her views of Israel and the death penalty. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, I didn't sign up for the bunch of chatter from this woman. I literally don't want to know what her political views are, but I want to use this time, to talk about the political indoctrination. So Pam, just finished that one up. So, I forget, there was somebody that was on death row at the time, and that's why this conversation came up. And I just remember it was almost as though she was waiting for the opportunity to pipe up and be like, well, I'm very pro the death penalty. I think that blah, 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 blah. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what makes you so vicious and bloodthirsty when this whole idea is that Jesus forgave? Like, he literally died on the cross for our sins, but here you are preaching the death penalty, which is incredibly racist. But again, the whole place everybody was a white supremacist, including Pam and Troy Jacobson, as were the Grosses, as were the Wellings. They were all white supremacists. And I just remember thinking that was so weird, her going off on this whole tirade about the death penalty and how it was very needed, and I just remember again thinking that nobody has the power. I still actually think this to this day. I'm not a religious person, but no one has the power to take another person's life, and two wrongs don't make it right. And let's say that somebody is a killer, that doesn't give anybody, including the state, the right to take that person's life. Only God has that power. So yeah, Mrs. Keyworth, who I have not mentioned, who has since deceased, who I've mentioned but have not really discussed, she would go off on these tirades about abortion. So this is the story that I want to tell about that one. So I remember that one time she read us a letter from a child who had been aborted. Just gonna throw that out there. And she said that she wrote this letter about, it was from the child's perspective, and I just remember the baby, like, reading, and the baby was like, hi, mommy, I'm so-and-so days old, I have a heartbeat, this and that. Hi, mommy, I'm so-and-so, la, la, la. Oh, no, mommy, I'm hurting. Oh, no, it hurts, and pain. Hi, mommy, I'm in Jesus's arms now. Mommy, why didn't you want me? Blah, blah, blah. So it was like a baby going through a chemical abortion. And I just remember that was so jarring. And I'm just like, in the 7th grade, that woman read us that. And it's gonna throw that out there. The last part and scene that I want to end with as far as the political indoctrination is, let's go back to the 6th grade to Mr. Holmes' class. So this was, and I'm dating myself, but this was during George W. Bush, the second time, I'm pretty sure. And Andy Harrison, who I've mentioned in Mrs. Cairo's episode, who started crying, and he got a lot of sympathy for that because he knew he could. So Andy Harrison's parents were Democrats, and we knew that, and that was really bad. You don't be, again, we all know it's the same shit. Democrat, Republican, same thing. But in this environment and in Christian school, you do not. Oh no, being a Democrat is the same thing as being a sinner, because those are the baby killers, remember? So, yeah. So Mr. Holmes, he found out that there was a Democrat in his midst, and so he decided that this was an important time to have a good political conversation to his 6th graders. I'll never forget this. That he asked the class, if you were able to vote tomorrow, who here would vote for George W. Bush? Every single hand, including mine, shot up in that classroom. And I remember so did Andy Harrison's. And I remember that he kind of addressed the class. And remember, John Holmes had a habit of shaming students in front of the entire class, like he did to me. And so I remember Andy kind of defending his position. He's like, well, my parents aren't Democrats or Republican. They're like, what am I trying to say? It's different every cycle, or they have to, it's always a different, they always have to decide there. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anyway, that was part of the religious indoctrination that took place, and how Pam and Troy Jacobson played a role in that at Alma Heights.